Volumetrics. You know, the super cool and realistic effect where objects that are farther away will get lighter. In Blender you normally do this by creating an object with a principled volume shader, except, you know. But what if I tell you that there's a super simple way to add volumetrics, practically not adding render times at all? Well, hold on to your potato laptops, cause if there wouldn't be one, I wouldn't have made this video and I wouldn't have written the script like this. Hey there, I'm Blemonade. If you're wondering why I show up in your subscription feed and you don't remember subscribing, I rebranded. I was known by the name of Max Mustermann. You might know me by ingenious videos such as industrial/sci-fi details in Blender, or endless corridors in Blender, or create fast hair in Blender in 60 seconds. Actually, these were my only tutorials. But I'm back and you better subscribe quickly if you haven't, cause there's a lot coming up, including a beginner tutorial. Okay, that's that, let's get started. The effect we're trying to achieve is called aerial perspective or atmospheric perspective. Basically, things that are far away will get lighter and more bluish. This happens because air isn't nothing, as you know, it's gases and dust and tiny particles that scatter the light. So it's really not fully transparent. And that's also what the volume shader does, but it dramatically increases render times even with Cycles X. But there's a cheaty little shortcut, the mist pass. The mist pass is a black and white image that indicates how far away objects are from the camera. The farther away objects are, the lighter they get. That's exactly what we want. If we render it out, we can see it looks like fog. Great. So how do we get this black and white image? 1. The mist pass. Like all render passes, you can enable the mist pass in the view layer properties. There's a checkbox for mist, enable that. Now in the viewport shading menu in render pass choose mist. There we see the effect. But the result may not be right for your scene. By default, full black is 5 meters distance and full white 25 meters. Your scene may be much bigger or much smaller. We can edit these values in the world properties in the mist pass section. Just drag the sliders around and find what looks best to you. If you select the camera and then the camera settings in the viewport display section, you enable show mist, you get a preview line for your limits. The start and end point should cover your full scene from foreground to background. Looks good, let's move on. 2. Rendering. Rendering! If you have the background or an HDRI visible in your shot, check Film Transparent in the render properties. You can replace this later in an image editing program of your choice. If you hit render now, the mist pass automatically renders too. You can access it from the pass drop-down menu. Instead of combined, choose mist. There you have the image, now you can save it. Do it, always remember to save, guys. Oh, and bonus tip for even faster render times. Even if your initial render is in cycles, you can first render it without the mist, save it, and then render just the mist in Eevee. The result is practically the same. In my case, Eevee worked even better. 3. Compositing. Now we have this image, but how can we use it? Well, we have to composite it in. We can do this in an external application like Photoshop, or we can use Blender's compositor. The concept is the same. To begin compositing, open the Compositing workspace. The Blender compositor works with nodes, similar to the shader editor. In fact, many of the nodes are the same. It can be a little weird to use, but if you have worked with shader nodes before, you'll understand quickly. So, enable Use Nodes in the top bar and we're ready. Now, the first thing we want is a preview of what we're doing. Hold Shift and drag a line with the right mouse button through the last link. You'll get a reroute point. Now hold Ctrl, Shift and left click on that reroute point to create a viewer node. Now we can see our render in the background. In the side panel, click View and Fit, and now it fills the whole space. Okay, so the render layers node, where our render is, now also has a mist output. You can again preview it by Ctrl Shift clicking. If you have rendered the mist pass in Eevee and saved it externally, you can just drag it into the node space and use the output of the newly created image instead. Now we need to overlay this image over our render so that the white parts make the image lighter and the black parts don't change the lightness. We do that by mixing the render and the mist pass together with a mix node. So press Shift and A and search for mix. Then add the node in the chain by moving it over the link and left clicking. Now connect the mist into the second image input. Right now we just blend between the two images, but if we choose screen as a blend mode, then the white parts of the image brighten it up and the dark ones are transparent. And we have our mist or haze or fog effect. You can dial in the look by dragging the factor slider around. Add a glare node and a color balance node if you want, and play with the settings. That's my tip for you, just try stuff. If it looks bad, leave it out. If it makes the image look better, great. Now, if you go back to the render window, you can see that the combined path is updated and now shows our final image. Save it. By the way, the process is nearly the same for animations. And remember, what we did here is the basic concept. It can be applied to all kinds of scenes, not just landscapes. I hope this tutorial helped you. I haven't gone into detail for every step. I recommend that you look into some other tutorials if this was too fast, for the compositor for example. Also, let me know if you would be interested in a tutorial for blend modes. This was Blemonade. See you. Hey, I have a Fiverr now. If you need something in Blender, I can do it. Link in description.